Hello and welcome to another episode on Sports Chambers. Today we're talking about Jamaica's failed attempt to qualify automatically for the 2026 FIFA World Cup after their 0-0 draw with Curacao at the National Stadium in Kingston on Tuesday night. Real disappointment because 35,000 fans packed into the National Stadium, expectant fans hoping that they would be celebrating the country's second ever World Cup qualification at the end of the night, but it was not to be. Thankfully, though, there is still a second chance for the Reggae Boyz to make it to next year's World Cup, and that is through the Interconfederation playoffs. They have been drawn to face New Caledonia, a team ranked 149 in the world. That is some 79 places below the Jamaicans, who are at 70th in the world. And then, of course, if the Reggae Boyz can pull off a win against New Caledonia, then they will play the Democratic Republic of Congo for a spot at the World Cup. By the way, this playoff tournament will be held in Mexico in March of 2026, and for the track and field loving fans, it will be round about the time that we have champs in Jamaica. But guess what? It just means that we will have a lot of wonderful action to look forward to. So yes, we're going to be talking about what really went wrong for the Reggae Boyz. How can some of the issues be fixed? And I do have a very special guest with me today. He is currently the coach of FC Cincinnati 2, that's in the MLX Next Pro League. He has coached interim head coach of FC Cincinnati as well. He was an assistant at Real Salt Lake. But most importantly, this is a man who played about 10 years for the Reggae Boyz from 2000 to 2010. 83 times he represented the black, green, and gold, Tyrone Marshall, as a defender. But, you know, apparently he started his footballing career as a forward, then transitioned into the midfield, then ended up as a defender. I don't know how you get there, but one thing we can say, he has a full understanding of the football pitch. Tyrone Marshall, it's a pleasure to have you on Sports Chambers. Welcome. How are you doing?
I'm doing very good. Thank you very much for having me, and appreciate that lengthy introduction. But yeah, it's played a long time, but now it's time to give back to the youth and hopefully navigate them to see if they can get to the next stage of football in their career.
Yeah, very much the case. I want to talk a little bit about the Reggae Boyz and get your immediate reaction to the failure to qualify automatically for the World Cup. How disappointed, and I guess in a way by extension, surprised were you that the Jamaicans didn't get out of that group with Curacao, Trinidad and Tobago, and Bermuda?
Yeah, it's very disappointed. Obviously, I woke up the next morning and the first thing I said to my wife is, I
Mhm.
can't believe we didn't qualify. So that to show you how important this match was, not only for myself but for the country as a whole, and for the Reggae Boys who have come through the system prior. I know everyone was glued to the TV watching the game if we weren't there in person. But yeah, the fraternity, the brotherhood. I mean, we're very disappointed. However, after getting over that disappointment, like you mentioned earlier, there's still an opportunity to try to get to the World Cup. And now instead of playing one match to win it and get there, now we have to go and play two games. So, we like to take the difficult route, as I look at it. But, I think there's we can still do it. I think the possibility is still there. We now have 3 months to prepare and do our research and make sure that we don't leave no stone unturned, in order for us to get the opportunity to go to the World Cup.
Yeah. If you were to put on your coach's hat and you look at the campaign, where would you say it went wrong for the Reggae Boyz?
I said it went wrong in the Curacao game, the first Curacao game in when they went down to Curacao. I didn't think the team that they put on the pitch was the right team. And what I mean by that, there were guys who hadn't played in their club, consistently. Guys were, just playing sparingly coming off the bench. I think going in a game like that, I didn't think we took it as seriously as we should. And this is just my opinion. Obviously I'm not in the coach's locker room, but this is just me from the outside looking at, from everything that I saw. And it just didn't seem like we had that resolve to get out there and compete. We didn't have the right personnel, so to speak, or the right frame of mind. I think there was like, oh, we're going to Curacao, we're playing on turf. A lot of thought process going through your mind. And just from the outside looking at it, I think that's where we start that mindset that we had, like, oh yeah, we should turn up and beat these guys, or we should turn up and then lay down to us. But unfortunately, the Curacao team, what they did have was they did have that camaraderie, and they did have that spirit, that galvanizing spirit about them. Because if you look, a lot of those guys, were ex pros, or not ex pros, but they applied a trade in Holland or in the lower leagues, and so they were good footballers. So if you can't take them lightly, a lot of those guys ply their trade in Europe, and they know what footballing was about, and they just put it together. They didn't have nothing to lose, and that's what I saw from the Curacao group. Where on the flip side, the Jamaican group, you didn't see that continuity, you didn't see that galvanizing spirit, you didn't see the unity at times. Sometimes you did, but you didn't see continuously. And I think that was the underlying factor too, that kind of led to our demise and us not getting that result that we need at home. Because the game just looked really, really bland. There wasn't any connection, there wasn't any fight, there wasn't any spirit. And so, yeah, it was difficult, very difficult to watch.
Is Stephen McLaren the man to take most of the blame in this failure?
Well, I would say he's the head coach. So yes, you would have to put the blame on him. Everything, at the end of the day, he's the one making the decision, so the ball stops with him. There's other people in the background, obviously, that's pulling some strings as well. But he's the guy that's leading the train, or that's leading the ship. He's the one in front. So I would think, yeah, it starts with him. He's the one putting the players on the pitch. He's the one having that final conversation before they go out. He's the motivating factor. He's the one that's going to galvanize the group. So yes, I would say it all comes down to him when it comes down to who's let the group down, not being able to qualify.
Yeah, I listened to what you said earlier, and I remember watching that game on Tuesday against Curacao. And one of the things that crossed my mind was that this is a team that seemed uncertain as to what they wanted to do. There were countless times when the goalkeeper, Andre Blake, got the ball. He was asking players to move into space to run, but everyone was pretty much stagnant. And I thought to myself, is that a sign that there are not clear instructions coming from the dressing room, coming from the coaching staff? How do you read a lot of what you saw, especially in that final game? The lack of fight, the lack of spirit, the lack of clarity in what the team wanted to do.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head right there in terms of clarity. The lack of clarity. It didn't seem like there was clarity. And I think also the personnel that we had on the field, they seem, especially Lambikisa. I thought for him, I was watching the game, and he looked like he was, not there. Like he was very uncertain. Just to give an example of some of the actions that happened. Sometimes I saw he got caught on the ball a lot, or got caught in between, like, should I step, should I not step? So yes, I think a lack of clarity was a big part of the game, where people did not know what was going on, how they're building out. And a good example was, if you see Curacao, they were defending in a 4-2-4, right? We were building out. I thought we were fine building out, but if we're building out, our midfielders cannot, come back in front of their front four and try to receive the ball. They have to receive the ball behind their front four, right? So when you break lines, now you can look to go forward. It's easy for the Curacao team to defend if they're, the guys in front of me. I cannot defend forward. I could do that at this age. However, so again, these are some of the things that, looking at the game, you can tell that either the personnels are not the right personnel to be playing that particular position, or the instruction wasn't clear, or we weren't giving them instruction to find those spaces higher up the field, so the center backs have option instead of just being direct and kicking it down the channel, or looking to find Cephas. Wasn't the right message, or the right I guess direction to go. You could tell we were just in one gear, and that's the only gear we knew to get into, and we couldn't get out of any other gear. You see what I'm saying? And it was very predictable, very, very predictable. No type of decision making. For example, Cephas, on the side. The right back was, I think, managed him really well. Then if that's the case, one of the assistant coaches or somebody need to say, hey, try the opposite side. We need to see that. And I think we didn't see it. And this is where it come now. You need the generals on the pitch. You need the guys them, who know what's going on to say, look, try this, gentlemen. Hey, this is not working. Let's do this. And we didn't see enough of that. And I think that's what we're lacking. Some of those leaders on the field as well.
Yeah, I'm happy you brought up that point, and I want you to expand on it a little bit because I was having a conversation with a friend last night, and I was suggesting that a lot of those changes in tactics and so on need to be coming from the bench, meaning the coach, and the coach has to be putting the right individuals in the right positions for us to get the right outcome. And I suspect, well, all of that is true, but he was also suggesting to me that as players, when you are out there in the middle, that you have a responsibility to pick up what is happening, what is working, what is not working, and make the adjustment with or without the coach giving those instructions. I mean, what do you think about that, and how does it usually work at that level?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely right. Sometimes, you have all of these guys are playing their trades in professional clubs. They're getting paid to play. However, if you put somebody in a position that they're not comfortable in, you think, okay, yeah, I could play center back, but I'm really a center mid. You're not gonna get the real quality from that particular player, and that's what I thought. Because I didn't think Frey was the best suit in the midfield, right?
Yeah.
I didn't think Reed gave
Who
enough
is
in the
more of a
midfield.
right back?
Yes, I think Frey could have gone the right back, and maybe you take Lambakisa, you bring him in a sense, right? But I think Frey will give you more. He plays for Miami that way. He gives a lot more when Miami plays him in that position, getting forward, having ideas how to combine, so on and so forth. But you didn't see it. He wasn't comfortable playing with his back to the goal, right? To the opposite to the opponent. So you didn't have that general in the midfield who can get it from one side, go to the opposite side, or who can cover ground side to side, back and front. You lack that. And going back to original point where we're talking about the players that need to figure it out. Yes, they need to figure it out. But if you don't play that position consistently, it's difficult to switch on. And sometimes, look, playing in the office is a difficult place, right?
Yeah.
Especially when a packed crowd like that. Not a lot of these guys didn't grow up in Jamaica and understand what it is to play in an environment like that. Where you go down to Waterhouse and you're playing against guys and I'm telling you about your what's it, that's it. You don't have that confidence, right? So not a lot of player can play in that position and say, yo, I have the confidence to play a good football because you make a bad pass and you hear the crowd say, yo, hold that. And the confidence go down. I know that, right? Because you've been there, done it. So yeah, some of these guys who apply their trade in England and they come in here or in the America and then come and play in front of this crowd. I think it was a little bit of a shell shock for them because they didn't understand the moment and how to deal with that particular moment because I didn't see the fight from everybody. I did
Yeah.
not see it. You see a few guys, for example, King, he was always hitting the ground. You could tell it meant something to him. But the
Yeah.
other guys, them, I didn't see that passion. And not to say they don't have the passion. Of course, they all do have the passion. But in that particular moment, it wasn't there. It wasn't there. And so, with that being said, I think we lack some things, and this is where it comes now to our talk about the leaders, them on the pitch. You need them leaders on the pitch to step up. And I didn't think I saw enough. I mean, Blake is in the goal, but there's so much you can do from back there. You need a field general, somebody who can dictate the tempo on the pitch or go and talk to people, right? And I didn't see that as much, and I
Yeah.
think that's where we were lacking a little bit in terms of the continuity on the pitch itself.
Yeah, a couple of critical issues I want to take you up on. One of them being what you mentioned, and some have referred to it as the over reliance or the continued go to of foreign born players, whether English, well, mostly English, in some cases, American born players, but players who didn't come through the Jamaican system. Do you feel there's an over reliance? One, do you feel there is a place in the national setup for them? How do you view it?
Yeah, I would say there's a play for not necessarily over reliance on those players. I would think in the past we brought in the best players that's going to help, and when those players came in, there was always a balance, right? there was a balance when you brought in a group of the guys them from England or the guys who apply their trade in MLS, whoever it may be around the world. There was always a balance of local players and those players. So, you get the sense of what it was about, to play for the colors. You know the meaning. When you have the Ian Goodison, when you have the Ricardo Gardners and the Ricardo Fullers and those guys, and Nandi Lowe, Walter Boy, amongst the group, right? That's where I said the leaders know, the galvanizing force, the Linval Dixon, those guys, the Aaron Lawrence, those guys were the galvanizing, I guess, source behind when you brought in the Fitzroys and the other guys from overseas, wherever it may be. It was always that grounding influence that was there and said, gentlemen, this is what we're playing for. And so now you know what you had to play for. And you know what you have to go out and you have to give 100% at all time. And they'll let you know. If you're not doing it, they'll let you know. And that's what I'm saying. I don't think you have enough of that in the group, the characters in the group to say, hey, you weren't doing enough, Mr. Reed, you weren't giving enough, or, who's the other guy? Gray, yo, we need to get more from you. Those characters weren't on the pitch, in my opinion, to get the best out of the group, right?
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, in the past, yeah, we've got guys that came from overseas, but I think, if you reach for the right players, I think you'll be fine because we need the best quality players on the pitch for Jamaica, if it's local or abroad. You just have to be able to handle them when they get into the environment.
Yeah, this is a slight aside, but quickly, when you came into the setup, I mean, which side of the divide did you find yourself on? Because you left Jamaica pretty early. I think you were like about 11 or 12 years old when you left Jamaica and went to the United States.
Right, right. But you see, when I came back to Jamaica, it was for me, it was a little bit of I have something to prove, right?
Mm,
I have something to prove that yes, I was overlooked because I know I left Jamaica. I was a national team. I think I left at 12. And I remember going with Jackie Walters as a young youth. I went to with Jackie Walters and the national team. I think it was a U19 team. We went to Trinidad, right? As a young player, I was the youngest player on that team. I went to Trinidad. I'm like, didn't play one bit, but I was there for the experience. Because I think Jackie Walter was setting me up to be on the 16 that was supposed to go out to the qualification next. And when I came back from Trinidad, I left and come to the States, right? But with that being said, when I came back into the national fold, because I remember as a college player, I went and watched Jamaica down in Miami when they played Brazil. And I'm like, yo, in the stands, watching that and say, yeah, man, proud of a country, love to be there. Didn't get the opportunity. Saw a good friend of mine, Bridget, and them, Andy William, playing in the World Cup. I think, boy, my chances were lost. But when I got the opportunity to get into the national team, when Lazzaroni came and got me, and invited me, I know this was it. One moment, and when I got that moment, I was going to take it and run with it. And that's what I did, because I had something to prove like I belong. I wanted to be here. I wanted to represent my country. My dad played for the national team. So there was a lot of pride and there was a lot at stake for me. And, knowing what it's like to be in Jamaica and grew up in that culture. Yeah. My first game in Jamaica, we played, I think it was Barbados. One of those teams to play. And I remember warming up, and I don't want to be too long. I was warming up and I was running over to the bleachers, and you can hear the man them in that stand, yo, oh, the white boy, and this and that. But I grew up in Jamaica. I know what it's like,
yeah.
to hear that. Right. And I'm like, yo, I have to win over them fans here. I have to win over the grandstand. It no matter what not the grandstand, the bleachers.
The
No
bleachers.
matter about the grandstand. I have to win the bleachers over. I'm not telling the next time when the game start, Ricardo, Gardner, baby comes up, boom, hit the ball across the pitch. Right? I'm gonna look up, I'm gonna see the sun in my eyes from the grandstand. Late evening game we're playing. I'm seeing the ball come across and come to boom, dead. You the man them that is bleachers, ball. And that was it. Done. Yeah. But to win over the crowd. And from there, it was history for me. And yeah, man, that's how it ended up, man.
Yeah, very, very much wonderful story there. I want to take you up on another point because a lot has been made in Jamaica of some players partying before and after the game.
Yeah.
What do you make of that? And in your experience, is this something that happens often across the football world?
Yeah, look, if we won the game, there wouldn't be any conversation, obviously, right? I mean, this happened all across the world. You know, people them go out after game. You travel to different countries or different states. You know, you see your brethren them. You go out and have a drink after the game, whatever it may be, right? However, you know, sometimes yeah, if you're going out, you know, you have guys, and this go back to what I'm saying. You have the leaders them in the group now. You know, a man say, "Yo, gentlemen, nobody touch the road tonight. You know, we have game tomorrow or 2 days from now. No one." And this is what I'm saying, right? You need those leaders. Yeah, yeah,
Should
you're
that be
gonna have the
coming from
guys gonna go out.
management?
Pardon?
Should that be coming from management?
No, man, that have to come from the players. That's what I'm saying. That have to come from within the group. That's where the leaders them have to step up. You know, the man them have to come together and say, "Yo, this is what we have to do, gentlemen. Big thing here. We're not relying on management, the coaches. No, they have to
Mhm.
do their thing. We have to do our thing inside the group. And this is what I'm saying. We have to say, yo, we're locked. Nobody touch the road. Let's focus. Let's get our thoughts together so we can go out and do the thing. When we do it, qualify, we're gonna go party and do whatever we want. But this is what I'm saying: the leadership inside the group. That's what I think when they'll have those galvanizing forces to step up and say, "Yo, let's do the thing."
Yeah, Tyrone Marshall, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you. Really appreciate your thoughts on the Reggae Boyz setup, and disappointed. Well, I am disappointed. I know the entire country is disappointed that the Reggae Boyz have not automatically qualified for the World Cup, especially because when the draw was made and the group came out, like pretty much everybody said,
Yes.
listen, this is soup. We're going to a second World Cup. And to be in a situation where we are not and have to go through a more difficult process to get there now, it is really tough on the nation, especially because of what we went through with Hurricane Melissa and so on. But I really appreciate your thoughts, Tyrone.
Yeah, man, appreciate it. And look, we are resilient people, you know, right? We're a resilient bunch of people. And I think even with having a second opportunity, I think we're gonna do well, man. We just need to put the right things in place now. We have a second chance. And sometimes when you have a second chance, you know, people step up, their characters show. And so I think we can still do it, man. We are disappointed, absolutely. But, you know, we still have a second chance. So let's see if we now can embrace the group now and see if we can continue to push them and encourage the group. And let's see if we can still get the opportunity to go to the World Cup because it's still there, it's still in our grasp. We just have to make sure we put the right things in place now and see if we can see it through.
All right, Tyrone Marshall, thanks very much, man. Appreciate the chat.
Yes.
Tyrone Marshall there played 83 matches for the Reggae Boyz between 2000 and 2010. By the way, scored 5 goals as well for the national team. I tell you what, the Reggae Boyz could have used just one of those goals on Tuesday night against Curacao. It would have made all the difference to history. We would be celebrating a place at the World Cup now, but of course, it was not to be. So it's over to the Jamaica Football Federation and the executive body there. I know a lot of the viewers to this channel, you want to hear my thoughts on the JFF, the resignation of the quote Steve McLaren, whether the JFF executives should all go as well. There are a lot of individuals saying that. And listen, I know that at a time like this, because individuals are disappointed, that will be expressed in various ways. And in many cases, it might not be the clearest of thoughts, but it's always important to take it at a time. That's why I took a day after the game, by the way, before I said anything, because I didn't want to see a lot of the things I was thinking in the immediate aftermath of the performance. But yes, there is still a job to be done. There's still an opportunity to qualify for the World Cup, and let's see if things are done correctly over the next 3 to 5 months, and the team can get the job done in March of next year. It's been another episode on Sports Chambers. Thank you very much for joining us again. And remember, for great sporting content, continue to like, share, subscribe, and comment. I'll respond to many of your comments as well. So yeah, please go ahead. Yeah, man. Thanks for watching. Take care.